Hey, welcome to the Minnesota Comic Exchange Comic Show. I'm Chris. I am the host and leader of the Minnesota Comic Exchange. Just wanted to show off a book I got today. I'm very proud of it. Incredible Hulk number 2. So now I just need Incredible Hulk number 1. Part of the reason it's fun having all of these vendors in one place is you can find things you're looking for. Also, this is not a cheap book, but there are things here, 10 cents up to thousands of dollars. It's a great event. Free admission as long as we can. And we are the comic book show for the people. We like to have tons of comic books to dig through, thousands. There's probably 100,000 here today. So thanks for stopping out.
So let me ask you a couple questions.
Yeah.
What is the first comic book you remember buying as a kid?
The first comic book I ever bought was at Schindler's in Burnsville, and it was Sensational Spider-Man number 1, done by local artist Dan Jurgens. I did inherit a great comic collection from my dad when I was like 11 years old, but I don't count that as my collection. That's his collection, and I bridged my collection with his collection on the books that I love. So Incredible Hulk, we needed number 2. We just need number 1. That bridges his childhood collection in with my childhood collection. And it's just really fun. A great thing to do with my dad.
So where do you see the future of comic book collecting going? Do you feel it's getting bigger, it's getting smaller, it's staying the same?
It's getting, in my opinion, a little bit pushed out by pop culture. These shows are rarer, but that's not a bad thing. It just means we need to revive these types of shows. You won't have as many celebrities, you won't have as many big name artists, but they are basically community groups that put on shows or low budget shows for more people to attend than paying $250 for a table. Our tables here are $60 for an 8-foot, $50 for a 6-foot artist. So that allows any collector, normal person cleaning out their collection, the chance to come get their books in front of people who collect comic books.
So how do you feel comic book collecting, selling, buying has changed since the pandemic? Is it better or worse?
It's coming back to normal. The pandemic was kind of like a gold rush. Everybody was stuck at home buying nostalgia items. Everybody was scared. So you would see comics balloon up in price to thousands of dollars that before the pandemic were 2/3 less. We're getting back to that normal market, and we are seeing people fall off, but there are new fans that fell in love with the hobby during that time. And you know, when prices fall for them, getting into comics during the pandemic, it just means that they get more comics. And that helps the community, that helps the vendors, that helps them keep printing physical media comics.
What do you feel right now? What are the best selling comic books? Are they Golden Age, Silver Age, Modern?
Modern comics sell the most, probably. I feel like if you're getting into older comics, you are already a collector of the medium, or you are collecting a single character and just going for back issues of famous artists you like. But I feel a lot of books are flying off the shelves these days. They're writing books for everybody. There's a story for everyone, and it's kind of neat. It's just really neat.
Are more people going with the raw comics or the graded?
That's a huge fight on the internet. There's people that talk about slabbing and tombing comics. My opinion is this: it's your money, spend it how you want. Personally, if I have a graded comic or a raw comic and I love it a lot, I'm gonna get both if I can afford it. I'm gonna have one I read in a lower grade, and I'm gonna have a nicer one graded, because that's how I collect. So I want people to collect how they want to collect, because it's your money. Make the hobby what you want. We don't need any gatekeepers.
Is there anything else you want to tell the people about comic books?
Comic books are great because, you know, I grew up reading. When I got in trouble, I had to read a book. And there's not enough reading these days. We're all on our phones. I'm on my phone constantly, but I'm also reading articles. I'm not scrolling TikTok. I think everybody could brush up on reading, and yes, comics have amazing artwork in them, but there's also a lot of story, a lot of themes, a lot to learn from them, and I'm glad people are giving them a chance again compared to when I was younger and it kind of died off a little bit.
All right, before we wrap this up, let the kids know where they can follow you, where they can find this powerful group.
You can find us on Facebook. We have a private group. We're very proud of that. We like to think it's one of the most drama-free places on the internet. You can find us on Instagram, where I run the page a little bit personally, so it's some of my collection, some of the things around town, all of that. Also on Blue Sky. And we're working on a X handle and our website currently. So,
excellent. Well, I really appreciate you taking time out of your excellent show here to let the people know about your group. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're honored to be here and have you here. Thank you.
Hey guys, Brad Huber with Go Big or Go Home Comics. We're having a fabulous day here on Saturday. You can't go wrong with buying some comics and just having some fun. Our next show is going to be Sunday, May 18th at Surly Brewery. It's an all-ages show. Come and have a beer and buy a comic and have some fun. How I got into comics and into all of this is I bought my first comic off of a newsstand. Wasn't this particular comic, but it was Wolverine number 8 back when I was like 8 years old. From then on, it just hooked me. About maybe 10 years ago, I got back into comics. And just love the thrill of buying and selling and meeting new people.
So let me ask you, out of DC, Marvel, who are your favorite comic books?
So I've always been a Batman
Really?
guy and Incredible Hulk.
So both?
So both.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I like the old school Batman, and Incredible Hulk was my first, that's what got me into comics.
So where do you see comic books? So how many years did you, when you restarted, how many years ago was that?
So it was about 10 years ago.
Okay, so from 10 years until now, how have you seen collecting change?
Oh, that's a good one. It's just like anything else. People compare it a little bit to stock market, or just, it's got its ups and downs. Right now we are in a down. During COVID it was at the peak season. I think we're going to continue to go down. Not necessarily getting too deep into politics or whatnot, but it's already down. Distributors, I think, are going to get hit harder for publication. Print, just people are buying fewer, newer comics. I don't think this type of event is going anywhere, and I think you're going to get busier in the back issue type comics. So if you can find comics from 50 cents to $3, those are the bread and butter that's going to be selling for the next 5 to 10 years.
So let me ask you, raw versus graded. Are people buying raw? Are they buying graded?
Yes. So they buy both. It depends. If you have 10 people in front of you, 8 will buy raw and 2 will buy graded. But there is, if I ever do a higher, more expensive book like this, I will always want it graded for an investment, especially if I'm going to resell it, because there's no debating of what the condition is.
Now let me ask you about grading. Now PSA is in the game, correct?
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on that versus CGC?
The benefit I see with PSA is if you have a graded comment or a signature on it, PSA will then also verify it, as does CBCS. But CBCS, for whatever reason, always has about a 10 to 20% lower value than CGC. That's just how it is. People can kind of go back and forth on what they like, but the market is what the market is. CGC will always get a higher price for the book.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So let's wrap it up here. So once again, you got an event coming up.
Yep.
And also, where do people get a hold of you?
So they can get a hold of me on Facebook. I do have an email, brad.m.huber@gmail.com. Phone number 651-248-9876. I'm fine to put that out there as well. I am also at the Stillwater Antique Mall in downtown Stillwater. I have a comic booth there as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I appreciate
it. Thank you.
Hey, my name's Mark Harper. I'm a collector here in the Twin Cities. Been collecting comics most of my life. I started as a kid. Bought my first Spider-Man. I think it was Spider-Man number 50 was my very first one, and I was hooked. got out of it as a teenager, but then came back as an adult and been collecting again, probably for the past 25 years. And then I also set up at shows, and I love both things. I love buying comics and I love selling comics. Our specialty is Marvel, Silver Age, specifically high-grade stuff. Here's some we got for sale. This is the first appearance of Rhino Spidey number 40. We've got that for sale at the show, and then also the first Punisher, Spider-Man number 129 9.2. So that's kind of our specialty, Spider-Man, X-Men, all the Marvel Silver Age stuff. And so come on, stop by and say hi, and I just love talking with people about comics who also love comics.
So let me ask you, when did you start actually selling comics? You started collecting, you said Amazing Spider-Man 50?
Yeah. Actually started selling, realistically, I mean, you're always trading and selling.
Sure.
But realistically, as far as setting up at shows, it was during COVID, really, when I had quite a few comics that I'd invested in for years, and of course the prices went up during COVID, and so I thought this is a good time to sell. So I set up for the first time, 2021 actually, at the show there at the State Fairgrounds.
How have you seen it changed over the years since you started to now?
Well, of course, a whole lot of new people got in during COVID, and we saw prices escalate. Prices have come down, but my opinion is there's still a whole lot of people in this market, and especially when you're looking at the rare stuff, pre-1967, and popular characters. Those things maybe they'll go down, but they'll come back up in price. So you still see a lot of investors and collectors involved in comics. I would say, just my opinion, the new comics coming out, that's kind of a tough market right now, and so I would encourage you to support I do everything I can to support the local comic shops. I don't own a shop. I'm more of a collector than a dealer, but I do everything I can to support the local comic shops, and I encourage you to do that, because that's kind of a tough road to hoe right now, that new comic market.
So what have you noticed about grading versus raw comics selling right now? Are you selling more raw, more graded?
Well, my specialty is graded. I actually call myself the slab guy. And what I mean by that, actually, I was at a show here, actually, at Woodbury Mall, and there was a potential customer was talking to a friend about the comics that he saw on our wall, and he was pointing at them, and he said, who's got that? And he used the words, he said, the slab guy, because we had all these slabs up. And so I kind of just went with that. So that's, I'll just say this, if someone's going to spend $500 or $1,000 on a comic or above that, you really want to know what that grade is, because that's an investment. But there are a whole lot of people that will never buy slabs, and so raw comics sell as well. And it's I wouldn't say that one is better than others. There's definitely raw comic fans out there that would never buy a slab, and then a lot of investors are not going to put a whole lot of money into a raw book. They want to know what that grade is.
Well, excellent. I really appreciate it. And once again, if you want to tell anyone where they can get a hold of you if they're interested in these fine slabbed books.
Yeah. Well, I'm at the show here, the Minnesota Comic Exchange show at Woodbury. I come to almost all those shows. I'm also set up at the State Fairgrounds for the Minnesota Comic Book Association. So, and then the convention at the Mermaid. Pretty much any convention or show that's happening in the Twin Cities area, I'll have a booth there. My name's Mark Harper, also known as the Slab Guy.
Thank you.
My name is Dennis Bondison. We are RIP Comics Minnesota. This is our first time as a vendor at any sort of show or anything like that. We've been part of the Minnesota Comic Book Exchange on Facebook for probably the last 2 years now, so not that long, but we've been coming to the shows that they've been doing. Things in the pop culture community, like Twin Cities Con, Minnesota Con, smaller cons that happen around the way. This is as I said previously, this is our first time as a vendor. we've been collecting comics kind of with the intent to sell for a little while, but had never really jumped on doing anything. And we happened into a rather large amount of comics at one point in time recently, and so we decided to try it out. So we've been here for the last 3.5 hours so, and it's been going well. Got into it just kind of during COVID, really. Comic book shops were still open, so we would go in weekly and buy comic books to read, just because everyone was locked away at home at the time, and so they had to figure out something to do. And so I'd always been a fan of like the movies and TV shows, cartoons, video games, stuff like that, but really getting into the nitty-gritty of the comic books has been a very recent thing that we broke into and happened upon a large community here.
So let me ask you this. What is the first comic book you remember buying?
First comic book I remember buying was the Jim Lee X-Men #1.
Never heard of it.
That was...
I'll be back.
I didn't buy it like right when it came out because I think I was still pretty young. I'm 28 years old, born in 1996, and so when it first came out, I think I was still pretty young. But I remember seeing it. I was most likely a reprint at Source in St. Paul, like northeast Minneapolis. When I was a kid, my parents had brought me there. I don't even remember for what. And so that was the first comic book that I can remember picking up in this form and having. I was a big manga guy as a kid. I was probably third grade, reading Dragon Ball Z. I saw it on Toonami as a kid and saw that they had books of it and decided to pick it up at the local library, and that I felt was a good foot in the door, very similar to comic books in a way. They get drawn. It's Japanese comic books is all manga is. And so they get drawn by an artist, and then hopefully it gets picked up as a TV show or something like that, and then put out there and turn into, like Dragon Ball is a great example. Like I just said, it's huge. TV, movies, video games. They have comics as well as the manga that they do. And that was my thing as a kid, and I felt like it transferred over to comic books really easily.
Now let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on graded versus raw comics?
I'm going to be honest. My opinion changes.
I want you to be honest. No lying. Yeah.
My opinion changes day to day. One day I will wake up and it's just like, raw comic books. I'm not even interested in the moment, because it's like, whether it's condition-wise or whatever. And then there are other days where all I want to do is read it, and I could care less about the grade. I could care less about how it presents. I just want to be able to read it, which of course you can't do as a graded. So I don't have a firm. I know a lot of people do. Like they either love or hate. Either or. I'm wishy-washy.
You're lukewarm.
Lukewarm, yeah. I don't have a firm belief on it. We have some here, of both raw and graded. It really just depends on how I feel in the moment.
Let me ask you this. Where do you see this hobby going in the future? Do you feel it's going to get bigger, smaller, more niche? What are your thoughts on that?
Ooh, it's a little difficult, as since COVID, we've seen the market, I don't want to say crash, but COVID prices for anything was so much more than what we're doing here, what anyone else is doing here. And I don't think that means that it's going away. I think it's just realizing what its actual value is. There are still comic books worth hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, but then you have us with our 14 long boxes of 50 centers that I think we're doing pretty well. And as far as where it's gonna go, you know, I mean, you look around at an event like this, and I made the joke earlier about you want a young guy's point of view, but like, you know, there's not that many younger people that are interested in stuff like this for whatever reason it is. You know, you'll see dads or parents carrying around their kids, and the kids seem to be into it, but well, who knows what they're going to be into 5-10 years from now. We got into it at a point in our life. I was 26 years old when I really got into comic books, and even then you could tell like the community's getting older, and you don't really see the young folk getting in on it. And yeah, everything's 50 cents, so you're good. Thank you. Sorry.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, I got prove me wrong right there. We got one. Hopefully we get more. I don't want to see it go away, especially since we like just got into it. But I don't know. When you look at the bigger picture, it's looking like it might. Hopefully, the generation that's left behind inherits it and gets into it. We'll have to see.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. Before we wrap this up, is there anything you want to say? Do you want anything you want to promote? Your social medias?
Yeah.
Where they can get a hold of you?
You can find us on Instagram at RIPComicsMN. Like I said, we're pretty new in the game. Not trying to be millionaires or anything like that. We're doing it because we thoroughly enjoy comic books and talking to people.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jamie Coker. I'm the lead artist and owner of Jamie Coker Creations. My art journey is ever evolving. It began when I was a little kid, always drawing, trying to be creative, being inspired by all the things around me. I was definitely inspired by a lot of the commercials, TV shows, cartoons, movies I saw. I've been doing art full-time since 2019, and in that time my wife and I have traveled across the country, done over 200 shows.
What is the first character you remember drawing as a kid?
Oh my gosh.
Comic book character.
To the best of my recollection was probably Batman. It's weird because Batman has been a character that's always been in my life in some fashion or another, whether I was drawing it just as a kid or whether it was something that I was reading those comics when I was younger or watching Batman the animated series or the movies or what have you. In some facet, he's always been in my life in some way. Yeah, so thanks for checking me out. Again, I'm Jamie Coker. My company is Jamie Coker Creations. We love to do all kinds of aspects of pop culture. Make sure you check me out on Instagram. It's jamie.coker_artist. Or you can check out my website, which we just launched, jamiecokercreations.com.